Today we're going to take a look at a watch from Borealis that makes me really wonder why Seiko actually sell the NH34 outside of their own product line. If you want an affordable GMT from Seiko, the 5KX GMT costs around $400 and change. However, you don't get a screw down crown, you don't get 200 meters of water resistance, you don't get a sapphire crystal, and you don't get screw pins in the bracelet. Today we're going to take a look at a Borealis that gives you all of those things using the NH34. So why does Seiko sell this movement outside of Seiko? I don't know. They're beating themselves at their own game. But that means we get to get watches like this Borealis Seastorm. Let's flip the camera and take a look at a pretty spec-heavy GMT from Borealis. So we have a Borealis on the channel today. Definitely not the first Borealis that I have featured here on Watch Chris. However, this is the first GMT from the brand that I have featured, and this is powered by the NH34. Now, this is the second watch that I have featured that is not a Seiko that features the NH34. I actually featured the Seiko when that came out, then another micro brand. I have a feeling there's going to be tons of micro brands using this movement because why not? They want to make an affordable GMT. What better way than by using an affordable Seiko movement? Lots of brands use NH movements, so the NH34 is going to be very popular. Here it is. This is, I believe, called the Seastorm. Obviously, a lot of inspiration from the 50 Fathoms, but you have a bi-colored bezel, blue and red. I believe there is a lot of lume in this bezel. When I took it in, when I opened up the package, I opened it up outside. I brought it inside and there was a lot of lume glowing from this watch. So we will see. I haven't actually done a lume shot in the dark just yet. But again, from that dial, you see this is a matte black dial. You get a lot of 50 Fathoms. You have the 12, 9, 3, and 6. I believe this is the date version. So you do have a date there between the 4 and the 5 o'clock. And then, of course, the GMT hand right there in red. It has a silver tip, fence post hands, and they are sort of segmented, I guess you would call them, and they are lumed, and I believe they are liberally applied with lume. The indices are printed, and they are very liberally printed with I believe BGW9, so lots of lume on this dial. We'll do a lume shot towards the end. Obviously, this is an NH product, so it's a Seiko product. The NH34 is not a true GMT or a traveler GMT. It is an office GMT, so the way the functionality works is you actually unscrew the crown on here, and then you put it into the second position. In that second position, you change the date, or you could move the GMT hand. That's basically it. Very simple functionality. Then when you pull it all the way out, you can adjust the time, minutes and hours. That's really it. This has a screwed-in crown. I believe it's 300 meters of water resistance. You have a very big knurled crown on here. It is very grippy. I'll do measurements so we know how big that is, but it is pretty big and very grippy, and it's signed with the Borealis B. It is polished on the edge. Really nice, big, grippy bezel with a 120 click bezel on here. So it's more of a dive style bezel than it is a GMT bezel, but I think it works fine, and you can still time things with this, time a second time zone. I technically would do without a date, and I think you get a dateless version of this, but the utility of having a date and a GMT kind of makes sense. So I guess in this situation, I can forgive the date at that 4 o'clock or 4 or 5 o'clock position. I think it looks a little weird, but in my opinion, I would always go dateless. But with the GMT, I could see why you would want the date. That's really it. So bracelet on here is an H-link bracelet, and it's very, very nice. You have screwed links, polished on the edges, and then brushed on top. And you can see it's like a very wide H-link, or I guess you would call it an H-link. Really nice bracelet, though. I very much like it. And then, the Borealis buckle. I've seen this on many Borealis. I think it's time they upgraded their buckle a little bit. It's polished. The flip lock is polished. It has that B right there. Everything feels really nice, and it's really chunky and well made. Everything is milled, and you have 4 positions of micro adjust. I wish they would do something a little bit different, maybe with a little bit of on the fly micro adjust. That would be really good, but everything sounds and feels really good. I'm always impressed with the overall functionality and feel of their buckles, but like I said, at this price point, and it's really not that expensive of a watch, but I would like to have a little bit more adjustability, especially since it's a micro brand. These are going for around $390. That's basically what you would pay for a GMT version of the 5KX, and that's what this is going for. So about the exact same price, but there's a few differences here that you're getting that you don't get on the Seiko. Obviously, you get a screwed-in crown, much better water resistance. This has 200 or 300 meters of water resistance. The prototype, I believe this is 300 meters of water resistance. Usually all Borealis are. On the Seiko, you're only getting 100 meters of water resistance. Also, you have a Hardlex crystal and bezel insert on the Seiko. This gets a sapphire, dome sapphire crystal and a dome sapphire bezel insert. And that bezel insert is liberally lumed. So you have a really nicely lumed bezel. I do not believe that Seiko lumed the bezel on the GMT that they just recently came out with. I own 2 of those. I'm going to be getting more in for review. I reviewed just the blue version. I want to get the orange version in for myself. But very quickly, let me do some measurements. This is around a 40, I think it's a 42 millimeter watch, so it's 41.8 millimeters on the thicker side, but you know, you get almost 300 meters of water resistance, or 300 meters of water resistance, so 14.2, and then a crown size of almost 7 millimeters, very big. You do get drilled lugs on here, and the lug to lug is around 48.5 millimeters, and the effective lug to lug is basically the same at 48.8. Then opening up the case back, let's take a look at the case back. The case back just has their mermaid on it. You can see right there. This is something that they've been doing for a long time. Screwed-in case back, and it just says automatic and NH34, 300 meters of water resistance. That's it. So typical Borealis case back, doesn't look bad. And that's really the case there. That's it. So very quickly, I'm going to throw it on my wrist so you can see what it looks like on my wrist, and then we'll do a quick lume shot. So today I have on my Romain Jerome. This is my Romain Jerome spacecraft. I've been wearing this watch over the past few weeks, basically nonstop, because I bought it and then I didn't wear it right away, and I've been on and off about not wearing it, and I'm so excited about this watch. I love it. I never get to wear it, so there you go. Here is the Borealis on my 7.5-inch wrist. It is unsized. It does wear high on the wrist, 14 millimeters thick. You do have a 300 meter water resistance on here. Beautiful bracelet. All in all, it does look a lot like a 50 fathoms. It's not an exact copy of a 50 fathoms. You have different lug structure, a little bit of a different lug structure. Even the bezel itself, very different. You have very large printing. The numbers are very large on here. You have a little diamond on the bezel underneath that dome sapphire crystal on that bezel. That is very similar to what you get from the 50 fathoms, but those large indices that they've put throughout, not very similar, obviously. And then you have a minute track on that dial. That's in white. Borealis, very boldly printed there below the 12 o'clock, and it just says 3 atmospheres and automatic above the 6 o'clock. Everything very liberally printed with lume. I'm excited to show you guys the lume. We'll show you that in just a second. Very quickly, I just want to show you the side of the case because the finishing on here is really nice. Borealis do a very good job with the finishing on their case. Very nicely brushed. It's mostly brushed. The bezel is brushed. There's a little bit of polishing. There's a polished edge on the top of the case, and then on the sides of the bracelet, and then on the side of the crown. That's really all of the polishing that you get on this watch, as you can see. But all in all, I think it's very nicely finished, and they did a good job. So very quickly, a lume shot, and then we will wrap up the video. Lume on Borealis never, ever lets me down. They always do a really good job and liberally apply lume everywhere. Obviously, the indices on the dial, very liberally applied. The indices in the bezel, very liberally applied. The hands, you have a little bit of lume on that second hand even. And when I say a little bit, it's actually a pretty good amount, more than I see on some watches on their entire dial on that second hand. So they're doing a really good job with the lume. They're liberally applying it where they are applying it. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Obviously, very liberally applied with lume. That is not cheap. $390. They have their ordering process where you could pay half up front and then half later, or all up front. But usually I think their watches are available almost immediately within just a few months of when you order, so you won't have to wait very long to actually get your watch, so that's not a bad thing. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel and I very much appreciate it. Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is WatchChrisBlog, all one word. I have some links in the description. Those links are to Amazon. If you click those links and buy anything, it helps support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything extra. However, I very much appreciate it. Anyway, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.